if the first real change with knowing better but not doing better is not fixing it, but finally seeing it clearly? Hmm. Awareness can create a turning point with knowing better but not doing better. The pattern may still exist, but it no longer has to remain invisible. The change may begin with one pause before reacting, one honest conversation, one boundary, or one moment of noticing the old script. The old script, by that I mean what we've learned, what we've been conditioned with, what we've been taught, what we picked up. So, across generations, change often starts the same way. A person recognizes a pattern and realizes that recognition creates at least one new choice or something else. What becomes possible when we can see knowing better, but not doing better without immediately becoming it. Perhaps freedom from knowing better, but not doing better, does not begin with defeating it, but with seeing it clearly enough that it no longer has to choose for us. We get to be in control. Through the lens of Christianity, Romans 7 talks about the gap. Paul describes a striking inner contradiction here. I'm paraphrasing. A person can recognize what is good and still find themselves doing what they do not want to do. The passage is theological in context, of course, dealing with sin, law, and the human condition, but its human tension is immediately recognizable. Knowing and doing are not the same thing. Now, I am not a fan of sin, law. I am a fan of human condition because that's been from the beginning of time. In other episode, perhaps I will go more in depth into it. But through the lens again of Romans 7 is powerful here because it refuses the simple idea that awareness automatically produces the behavior. Paul's struggle creates space between I know better and why am I still doing this? A lot of us always dwell on that, knowing better, but still choose to do the wrong thing. Awareness matters, but awareness by itself does not mean the old pool disappears. And maybe that's often some of the shame hidden inside the phrase, I should know better. Inner contradiction is not always proof that we've learned nothing. Sometimes it shows how deeply the competing pattern is operating. We may understand growth clearly, while an older, more familiar response still feels easier, kind of like automatic. What if knowing better is not proof that change should already be easy, but proof that we can finally see the conflict clearly? In the lens of Buddhism, mindfulness, it talks about the pause. Classical Buddhist mindfulness practice emphasizes on observing bodily experience, feelings, mental states, and of course, patterns as they arise rather than automatically identifying with or reacting to them. The important distinction is not merely knowing that a habit is unhealthy. It is becoming aware of the habit while it is actually happening. Sometimes freedom begins with one moment in which the old script is seen before it is followed. Someone might intellectually know for years I become defensive when I'm being criticized. I avoid difficult conversations. I procrastinate when I'm afraid. I keep returning to what is comfortable. And I wanna emphasize on that. Procrastination is a big one for a lot of us. Why? In our mind or our ego, it always talk. It always find things. It always try to compare things, and sometimes we are not aware of what our mind is doing. Heck, lots of time our mind is just on autopilot, and the mind does not want you to go to a unknown happiness. It wants to keep you in the known, uh, what do we call it? Um, Forgot this scarcity. The mind, the ego wants to keep you trapped in scarcity. I'd rather be in the unknown happiness because I became aware. And as I'm being guided by the Spirit, as I'm being guided by the Holy Ghost, as I'm being guided by Gaia, as I'm being guided by the Source, I know that I will be okay. The mind doesn't trust that. The mind is a control freak. So that's why the ego keep returning to what is comfortable. That's why we procrastinate when we're afraid. But that knowledge often lives outside the moment when the behavior takes over. Mindfulness moves awareness closer to the actual choice point. You get your trigger, you get a sensation, you get a thought, you get an impulse, and then you react. Trigger, sensation, thought, impulse, reaction. Even a brief moment of observation can interrupt the sense that the reaction is inevitable. Buddhist practice does not suggest that simply noticing something instantly eliminates conditioning. The value is that observing an experience creates a different relationship with it. We're on autopilot just about every day. Perhaps freedom. It begins with seeing it clearly enough that it no longer has to choose for us. What changes when I know I do this becomes I can see myself about to do it. What changes? Things that make you go, Let's take a look through another lens. Eckhart Tolle. Having a choice or the choice. A recurring theme in Eckhart is that work is the distinction between being completely identified with thoughts, emotions, and habitual reactions and becoming aware of those feeling thoughts or actions as they occur, as they become available. This should be understood as totally spiritual or philosophical teaching. Please keep in mind, and just about Carl Jung and everything else, and the Bible itself, this is not a clinical psychology. Now, some of you might say, hold on, wait a minute. Why did he say the Bible? Well, because there's a lot of things that it's good. The Bible has a lot of great things that we could learn from. And as a matter of fact, any book has a lot of great things we could learn from. But the minute we make it absolute, we just minimize the power of the Spirit, the power of the source, the power of what we see God. We don't know God. We don't see God the way you think God is. Well, actually, we see God the way we think God is. We don't know God the way God is. And to think that we think we had it all figured out. You see, mindfulness helps us notice the pattern. Tony's language of awareness asks another question. Once we notice the pattern, does it still have to define us? Tony's language of awareness raises the question of whether the pattern must continue to define the person once he has been noticed. There is a meaningful difference between I procrastinate and I'm noticing the urge to procrastinate. Big differences. Or it could be I'm an angry person versus anger is arising and I can see what I usually do next. The behavior may still happen, but identity and behavior are no longer completely fused. What becomes possible when we can see knowing better but not doing better without immediately becoming it? You tell me. Perhaps the first freedom is not immediately behaving perfectly. Perhaps it is becoming conscious enough to recognize that the familiar response is an option rather than an identity. If we can watch the old reaction arrive before we act on it, is that already the beginning of a different kind of freedom? I like to think so. So, if we put the three ideas together, and the movement becomes clear. Romans 7 begins with the uncomfortable contradiction. I understand and still repeat. Mindfulness brings awareness into the moment. Can I notice the pattern while it is still happening? And totally opens another doorway. If I can observe the reaction, do I still have to let it define or direct me? The deeper movement may be this. Information is not transformation. But awareness may be where transformation gets its first opening. So maybe the answer is not you know better, so just do better. It's interesting because a lot of times we've been told be good when we were a kid, be good. But our parents never defined what good is. Hey, a good for me was to get on top of the table and jump from table to table. Hey, that was thrill. Tell me, but I got in trouble a lot of the time. So I was being told, you know better, so just do better. But what does better looks like? Can I get an example here? Can I buy a Bible? Always, my parents always tells me, be good. I'm sure your parent probably told you so. But the reality of it, that I didn't know what good looked like because in a way, I never seen it happening. So why does part of us keep choosing the familiar, even after another part of us can clearly see where it leads? If knowing better has never been enough to make us change, what is it that finally turns awareness into a different choice? Hmm. You know, I'm sharing these lenses because I've been asked and I'm compelled to do so. If you resonate with this, welcome. Take what's yours, question what is not. This is not the law of the land. This is simply through my lens, through my experience, sharing that in order to help you, in order to help me. Because I've been having these feelings that I must do this. This is for you as much as it is for me. And if this found you, there's a reason for that. Welcome. Tell us in the comments some of the items that you are struggling with. Heck, you could tell me some of the things you like to see. I'll be more than happy to put something together and talk about that. Perhaps one different choice matters because it interrupts the automatic one. And that's what we're here to do. Interrupt the automatic choices. There may be more wisdom in becoming curious about knowing better, but not doing better, than in simply judging ourselves for it. Sometimes, freedom begins with one moment in which the old script it's seen before it is followed. Ponder on that. And next time you have the urge or the automatic urge, pause and think, is this me? Or is this my persona? Or is this my conditioning? AKA the old script. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And my goal is ponder everything, question everything, myself included. You have a good one. Until the next one.